Figuring out what to pack can be one of the most daunting and overwhelming parts of backpacking, and it happens before you even hit the trail. In this section of the Backpacking 101 course, I've included all of the essential items you'll need and a few extras you may want to include if you have the space. I will go into detail about each piece of gear and explain why you need it. There's also a backpacking checklist included in the comments. This is a great visual to help make sure that you don't leave anything behind. A quick note, there is a ton of gear out there. A lot of it is essential, but a lot of it is also what I call luxury items. I highly recommend sticking with your essentials as much as possible because anything extra will add a lot of weight. However, if you know that you won't sleep without a camp pillow or other luxury items, by all means pack it. Just remember, hiking with a fully loaded backpack requires a lot of energy, so you may need to bring extra food as your pack weight increases. First, you're going to need a backpack. What size backpack you choose depends on how long of a trip you want to do. The general guidelines are as follows. For a 1 to 3 night weekend backpacking trip, you will want about 30 to 50 liters of space. If you're going for about 3 to 5 nights on a multiple day trip, 50 to 80 liters is appropriate. For anything beyond 5 nights, you'll want at least 70 liters or more. If you don't already have a backpack and you're not ready to invest in one yet, I recommend asking a friend to borrow one who has a similar body type as you, reaching out to your local Facebook hiking group to see if you can borrow one, or renting one from your local outdoor gear store. Footwear is one of the most important pieces of gear for backpacking. A good pair of shoes specifically designed for hiking will go a long way to provide you comfort, prevent injury, and help you reach your physical goals. When you're looking at footwear, I strongly recommend going to visit your local outdoor store and trying on several brands. Each brand offers different features and are designed for different types of feet. Some cater to more narrow or wider feet, some with higher arches or flatter feet, heavy or low cushion, etc. Whatever you decide on, I strongly encourage you to think about waterproof footwear. This will keep your feet dry on the trails and prevent blisters and other injuries to your foot. When you're testing out footwear, there are a few things you want to consider. Wear a weighted backpack when you try on your shoes. You can throw in 20 to 30 pounds to get a good representation. You may love a pair of shoes, but once you hit the trail with the extra weight, you may find that you prefer extra ankle support or need more or less ventilation, etc. Personally, I like mid-height hiking boots for backpacking, even though I usually wear hiking shoes when I hike. A fun tip, you can also buy hiking boots used. Yep, you heard it. If you select the option for excellent condition from places like Alpine Sisters or REI, you may even get shoes that have only been worn once. Next up, you're going to need a tent. Your tent is your home in the backcountry. It protects you from the elements and offers you much needed comfort while you rest. Finding a backpacking tent that is resilient against weather, well ventilated, and durable is essential. There are a few things you are going to want to consider, like the weight and amount of space it takes up when packed. Some backpackers like throwing their packed tent on the outside of their pack, while others prefer to disassemble it and put the poles, rainfly, etc. in different parts of their pack. If you're traveling with a group, you can even divvy it up among your party. If you do this, make sure that you don't ever separate in case you can't find one another again, and then nobody has a shelter. Another thing to consider is the ease of assembly. Can you do it by yourself in windy conditions if you're planning on going solo? Or will you have a friend or partner with you to help out? Is it something you can do in the middle of the night if you got there late? Or is it a tent that's best done in the daylight? A good night's sleep in the backcountry will go a long way. When you're looking at sleeping bags, check the coldest temperatures where you are planning to go camping. Remember that even in the summer, many places drop as much as 40 to 50 degrees in the evenings. Choose a sleeping bag that has a low enough temperature rating, and if you run cold, consider a sleeping bag that has an even lower temperature rating. Think about 15 degrees lower. There are 2 general types of sleeping bags, down and synthetic. Each has benefits and downsides, so let's explore a little more. Down material is sourced from the plumage of birds, which is found underneath the top feathers, like geese and ducks. The benefits of down are enormous. It's incredibly insulating, lightweight, durable, can easily be compressed, which makes it more versatile when backpacking, and it's really breathable. If you're backpacking in an extremely cold climate and know that conditions will be dry, this is an excellent choice. If you're going to be in wet conditions, note that down sleeping bags can take a really long time to dry out, and won't keep you nearly as warm while it's wet. They also tend to be much more expensive than their synthetic counterparts. Synthetic sleeping bags are typically made of polyester, which, while not great for the planet, many companies are slowly starting to use more recycled polyester. Synthetic sleeping bags are usually lighter weight than down and will insulate you even if it's wet. So if you're planning on backpacking in a climate that is frequently wet, this is a great option for you. They also dry quickly and tend to be less expensive than their down counterparts. Something to keep in mind is that synthetic is less compressible than down, it weighs quite a bit more, and it's less durable over time. There are two types of synthetic insulations: short staple or continuous filament. Short staple insulations are, like the name suggests, shorter strands of fine denier filaments. This allows the strands to be packed closer together, which minimizes the amount of heat that escapes and makes it more compressible when packing. However, short staple filament does tend to be less durable and can sometimes create cold spots, so you may need to move the insulation around a bit. Continuous filament insulations are the opposite of short staple. The filament is thicker, which also allows them to be more durable, but less compressible for packing. Cold spots are less of a concern as it tends to stay in place more. So which one should you choose? The one that fits your needs and your budget. Another thing I will note about sleeping bags is that sleeping bags for women and men are designed differently and even come in different lengths. So for myself, I'm about 5 feet 4 inches, and I love using my North Face because it fits my curvier body than a sleeping bag designed for a man, and it is also much shorter than a regular sized one, which insulates better. Having too much extra space at the bottom of your feet can be remedied by packing clothes down at the bottom, but if you have the option for a shorter bag, and if you're shorter like me, I would highly recommend getting a shorter one. Sleeping pads don't just serve as a bed away from home. An insulated sleeping pad will ensure the cold ground doesn't draw precious warmth away from your body. When you're looking for the best sleeping pad for backpacking, you'll want to take into consideration each sleeping pad's comfort level, weight, and insulation. When talking about insulation, you will hear a lot about R value. R value is a numeric system that tells you the resistance of the insulation to heat flow. So basically, how well a sleeping pad prevents the heat in your body from transferring to the ground. The greater the R value, the more resistance, and the better the sleeping pad is at insulating you, keeping you warmer at night. So a greater R value is better for winter backpacking, whereas a lighter R value is ideal for a warmer climate. I'll talk about the 3 types of sleeping pads and what they're typically best used for. Air pads vary a lot in weight, comfort, and R value, and are ideal for backpacking. They're typically really comfortable, pretty lightweight, and very packable. By adding or releasing air, you can make it more or less firm, depending on your preference. You can find air pads with high or low R values, which is great for choosing your ideal backpacking climate. They can range in price and tend to be more expensive as they get lighter in weight. Because they're filled with air, it's really important that you carry a lightweight patch kit, which oftentimes comes with your sleeping pad and are easy to use while you're out in the backcountry. I've had my one air pad for over 30 years and just passed it down to my daughter. So when cared for properly, they can last a really long time. This is a piece of gear that is easier to borrow or rent, but I would recommend testing it out before heading into the backcountry to make sure it's comfortable for you. There are also self-inflating pads. Self-inflating pads are nice in that they use both foam and air for insulation. By opening up the valve, the foam will expand and fill on its own. Many of these are heavier, but if you find a lightweight one, they can be great for backpacking. I would recommend a self-inflating pad for winter backpacking. The backpacking specific ones are decently packable, very comfortable, have great insulation, and are really durable. Self-inflating pads can be heavier and are typically less packable than air pads. Like air pads, they can be damaged, but a repair kit makes it easy to fix in the backcountry. Finally, we have closed cell foam pads. Closed cell foam pads are ideal for through hiking. They're nice and simple and are made from dense foam. Through hikers love them because they're lightweight and super durable. Unlike air and self-inflating pads, they're pretty indestructible, and as a bonus, they're usually much less expensive than other pads. If your focus is comfort, foam pads may not be a great option for you as there is minimal cushioning. They also aren't as warm as their counterparts, so if you plan on backpacking in colder conditions, I wouldn't recommend a foam pad. They're also quite bulky and will need to be attached to the outside of your backpack. I cannot emphasize the importance of sun protection enough. It's both for your safety in the backcountry and long term, along with your comfort. I recommend having some kind of head protection, like a hat or balaclava. You should also have sunscreen. It's important to have sunscreen that's rated SPF 30 or higher, both for your body and your lips, if you're going to be exposed to the sun for long periods of time, per the suggestion of the American Cancer Society. I strongly encourage you to choose sunscreens that are free from harsh chemicals so that you're protecting the delicate ecosystems you'll be exploring. Definitely leave the aerosols at home. Finally, bring polarized sunglasses to protect your eyes from harmful UV rays. Nutrition is always important, but it is especially important while backpacking. Not only does it give your body the fuel it needs for all of your adventuring, but a full belly with lots of healthy macronutrients has a significant impact on your mood, as does staying properly hydrated. Think of meals and snacks that are high in fat and protein, since they burn slower than meals that are high in carbohydrates. You'll also need to make sure you bring at least a day's extra worth of food, just in case something happens on the trail. Hydration is key when backpacking. Making sure you have enough water and are consuming it regularly is so important. You'll notice quickly that your body is more prone to dehydration when you're constantly on the move, so please remember to replenish regularly. I always have at least 2 water bottles with me along with a water filter. I also recommend carrying electrolyte tablets. With all the extra water you're consuming and calories you're burning, sometimes your electrolytes can become imbalanced, which can lead to serious medical complications if left unchecked. I would also strongly suggest bringing iodine in addition to one of these as a backup option. Food and water is such a big topic that I'm going to create an entirely separate video for this section to detail meal planning and how to drink water safely. In addition to food and water, you'll also need a backpacking stove, fuel, and cookware. Using a lightweight and dependable backpacking stove is crucial. Please make sure you practice using it before you go into the field, though. I'll talk more about how to use my favorite backpacking stove in a future video. Make sure you read about how quickly your stove can boil a liter of water so you can plan how much fuel you will need. Some backpackers only cook dinner on a stove, while others will use it for breakfast and even sometimes lunch as well. This all depends on your preferences and what food you plan to bring. Again, I'll talk more about this in a future video. There are a few other odds and ends you will need. A mess kit, so you actually have a way to consume your food. Typically a lightweight bowl and a spork will do the trick. If you're planning on bringing pre-made dehydrated meals like Fernway or Alpine Air, you can even just eat straight out of the package and forgo the bowl. A camp mug is an optional luxury item, as you can always use your water bottle if you opt out of the hot chocolate, cider, or tea. But if you like a warm beverage at the end of the day like myself, having a lightweight camp mug is amazing. You'll also need a sponge and biodegradable soap to clean your dishes. Please make sure your soap is in fact biodegradable, because some chemicals in certain soaps can disrupt and damage the wild spaces you're exploring. A bare canister is also essential to store your food in. Hanging a food bag is no longer recommended, as bears and other animals have still found ways to get in, even when properly hung. Some trails even require canisters, so I think it's a good overall investment. Many states and national parks will actually have the option to rent one of these for a pretty low price, so check the trail you're planning on backpacking and see if it's an option. I also suggest putting your food in well before you actually go backpacking to make sure everything fits. Things that go into a bare canister include food, cooking tools, and anything scented like toothpaste. Also note, even if you're not planning on backpacking in bear country, other animals like squirrels can eat all of your food, leaving you in a dangerous situation, so please take food storage seriously. You'll also need a lighter and/or matches. While you need a fire source to start your stove, having a way to make a fire due to unexpected events is equally important. I recommend bringing waterproof matches or a windproof lighter in your pack, along with a small fire starter, in case natural resources are limited. While obviously you hope you'll never need to make an emergency fire, it's important to have so that you can prevent hypothermia or use it as a signal if you get lost. It's always best to prepare for the unexpected and have some peace of mind. I can do a video in the future about how to make a fire in case of an emergency. The key to dressing for backpacking is to dress in layers. I will go into more detail about layering in a future section, but generally speaking, you want to have a base layer, a mid layer, and an outer layer. I like wearing a pair of base layers and packing only one spare in my pack. You can switch off between the two, doing trail laundry as needed. This will greatly reduce the weight of your pack and free up a lot of space. You'll also need underwear. Again, I recommend wearing one pair and packing a pair. You can wash and air out your second pair on your pack or on a rock when you're not wearing it. A moisture-wicking pair of underwear will go a long way in terms of comfort and chafing. I love my Smart Wool ones made from merino wool, but any kind of merino wool or moisture-wicking pair will do. You'll also need a sports bra. You know your body and comfort best, but you can even get away with just wearing one and not packing a spare. You'll also need shirts. Both long sleeve and short or sleeveless is generally recommended. You'll need pants and maybe even possibly some shorts depending on where you're hiking. You'll also need socks. I really recommend getting a nice pair of merino wool socks. They'll really help to keep your feet dry and also prevent any injury like blisters. If you're going to a climate where it tends to get colder at night, you'll definitely need to bring some gloves as well. I like fleece gloves because they're really light and packable, and they dry easily if they get wet. Finally, you'll definitely need a hat. I strongly recommend bringing a cold weather hat so that if it does get cold at night or there's an emergency, you have something that's insulating your head. A sun hat is also a fantastic idea to protect yourself from the sun. Doing your business and taking care of your hygiene in nature takes a little more planning. The golden rule is to pack out whatever you pack in. I'll go into a lot of detail about hygiene in a later video, but here are the items you'll likely need. A reusable bag to hold all of your toiletries is a luxury item, but so helpful. I like using a stasher bag or a dry sack. A reusable pee rag or toilet paper, and a bidet. You can definitely drip dry if you want to after you pee, but I find chafing is an issue for me, so I like having a reusable pee rag. A bidet is my preferred cleaning option after going poop, so I don't have to bring toilet paper. Even if you're pretty regular with your menstrual cycle, bring a menstrual cup and or tampons and pads if you're still menstruating. The exertion of backpacking can drastically change your cycle. You'll also need a backcountry trowel for digging your cat holes. Hand sanitizer can also be really helpful if water isn't readily available. Having some environmentally friendly hand sanitizer is great. You'll also need some biodegradable soap. It's great for washing your hands and your dishes alike, while reducing your impact in the beautiful place you're exploring. You'll need your toothbrush and toothpaste. Remember to follow leave no trace practices when you brush your teeth, which, again, I'll talk a lot more about in a later video. A hairbrush is an optional item for some, but needed for others. Think of a small and lightweight option, but also take into account your hair type. A backcountry towel is an optional luxury item. If you enjoy swimming in alpine lakes or rivers, or just wiping off sweat, a lightweight, small, quick-dry towel is a great add-on if you have the space. Don't forget any prescription medications you might need. Regardless of known allergies, I highly recommend that you bring some Benadryl or other antihistamine. Most first aid kits will have them, but make sure yours does and that it hasn't expired. It's possible that you may encounter a bug bite or something environmental that causes a severe allergic reaction, and it could save your life. If you wear contacts, please bring an extra pair and your glasses as well, just in case. Again, I will do an entire video on feminine hygiene, but this is just a quick list of what gear you'll need. These are the emergency items I hope you'll never need, but they are so important to have in case an unexpected event should arise. First, you're going to need a first aid kit. No matter how short of a trip you're going on, you should always bring a first aid kit that will have enough supplies for yourself and your other party members. I also recommend a tourniquet and making sure you know how to use it. Next, you're going to need a headlamp. You may find yourself hiking later than intended, or you may need to light your way around the campsite, or there might be an emergency, so you should always have a headlamp with you, as well as additional batteries. You should bring some kind of multi-tool or knife. Use it for first aid, to repair your broken gear, mealtime, etc. You can get one that's really simple and lightweight, or as multifunctional as you want. Just remember to take it out of your backpack if you're flying and going through security. Next, you're going to need some insect repellent. Aside from insects being a nuisance, they can also carry diseases. When you can, wear long sleeves and pants, but make sure you also have some kind of insect repellent for those really tough days. We talked a little bit about this one before, but make sure you have a fire starter. There may not always be dry materials readily available to create a fire with during an emergency, so bringing a fire starter is essential for your safety. Finally, a whistle. In case of an emergency, you may not be able to use your voice for long periods of time to attract help. A whistle takes minimal effort to produce a loud sound. Many multi-tools or fire starters will actually already have whistles attached to them, so you may not need to bring an additional one. The GPS on your phone is a fantastic tool to use when you're hiking. While it's great to have, make sure you also bring a map along with your compass. Make sure that compass is calibrated and that you know how to use it correctly. More on that in a future section. Sometimes weather conditions change unexpectedly, or you find yourself off the trail accidentally, or you get turned around after checking out that epic view. A topographic map and a compass will help you navigate safely back to the main path. Sometimes in the hustle and bustle of packing your backpack, these important items can be forgotten, so make sure to check for your permits, if any are required. Many backpacking trails require you to register when you arrive or reserve a permit in advance. I like sticking mine in a dry sack or stasher bag to keep it from getting damaged, along with any other small personal items. Don't forget to bring your cell phone. Even if you don't have reception, a 911 call will often still go through, so bring your phone even if you don't plan on using it for anything else. Your keys. Getting back to a locked car after an amazing trip would be super frustrating. Finally, your ID and insurance card. If there is an emergency, this could really help rescuers. Here are a few extra and optional items. Your trek poles are a great way to prevent injury to your knees, particularly going downhill. I recommend wearing a weighted pack and going down some stairs if you're uncertain whether or not you need them. You can also use them in an emergency situation if you were injured. A small repair kit. Sometimes gear tears. A quick repair might be necessary until you are able to go home and tend to it more thoroughly. A small amount of duct tape can really come in handy if you want to make some quick repairs. A book or Kindle is an optional luxury item, but personally, it's an essential for myself. Especially when fires are not an option, having some kind of reading material is really nice at the end of the day. A deck of cards is also an awesome thing to bring if you're going with a group, especially when you're stuck in your tent on a rainy day. Like I said, there's a lot of gear and planning that goes into packing your backpack. Again, borrow what you don't have when possible. And for those who like printable checklists, check out the comments for the Alpine Sisters free backpacking checklist. I always use one before heading out for a trip to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, it would be so helpful if you hit that like button and subscribe to be notified for future videos. Coming up, I'll be talking about how to pack and fit your backpack, how to properly layer, and meal planning and nutrition.